Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we are doing a part 2 episode. I think we're actually doing 3 more with Boimer over the next year or so. So we're going to be covering lots of different angles. Today we have their Director of Sales, Mining and Power Division, North America, Peter Sehl. If you know, he'll obviously give the summary of Boimer, but we're talking a company with 5,400 employees. They design and manufacture material handling systems all over the world. We're going to be talking a little bit about the acquisition of FAM and the expanded capabilities that brings Boimer now. Okay. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Yeah, hello. Nice to be with you here.
I've got a list of questions here, a lot to pack in. So the first episode we did with Boimer, we covered more the ports and the terminals, and it was very specific because it was sort of also a last minute episode, so we didn't really get a chance to sort of unpack Boimer as a company as well. Can you give us that overall snapshot of who the company is and what division you're a part of?
Yeah, so we are a leading engineering company and manufacturer of advanced material handling solution for various industries. We serve the mining industry, the cement industry, the chemical industry, but we also have divisions that work with airports and logistics customers. My responsibility is to provide solutions to customer, in particular, that convey and load bulk material handling.
So I just wanted to clarify something. Going back to the covered ports and the ports and the terminals. Is there a lot of overlay within the division? Because obviously a lot of the mining materials are coming to ports and terminals. So when you say the mining division, is there a lot of overlap between the other divisions? How is that sort of set up?
Well, is not a whole lot of overlaps, let's say, between the airports division and our conveying and loading group. Um, we share some experts in certain areas, but in general, I would say the requirements of the industry are quite unique, and the type of material handling systems are quite unique. When we talk about ports and terminals and how similar the equipment that we find at ports are to those found at, let's say, cement plants or in the mining industry, there's a lot of similarities. The equipment will be sized according to the needs. So we typically see much larger material streams. So the capacities of the conveyors and the lengths of conveyors are typically longer in a mining setting compared to a port, but the basic technologies are very similar.
Have you been in the industry a long time?
I have. I've been in the industry pretty much after I finished college. For now, it's been almost 24 years.
Well, who were you? Did you recently join Boimer, right? A couple years ago?
Yeah, that's right. I joined Boimer in 2021, and I prior to that was just Krupp for 22 years, working in various functions in engineering field. I did project management, and then the last 15 years focusing on sales.
When you mentioned that you got into the sector essentially right out of college or university, I've been asking people this a lot more. Is this, did you have family that was in the industry? Did you just sort of choose it coming out? You sort of looked at the list of things you wanted to do, or how did you decide to go that route?
That is an interesting question. Yes and no. So my father, he was also or is also an engineer, now retired, and he worked in the cement industry. And with some help from him, I got an internship in South Africa, working on some projects in the diamond mines and also on a cement plant during a commissioning phase. And I really liked the equipment that we were working on. I'm by training an electrical engineer and working in a mining and a cement plant environment. You find so many various applications. I always say you find milliamps and kiloamps and millivolts and megawatts. It's like the whole spectrum that you would find as an electrical engineer in school to apply in the real world. So that was really fascinating for me. And the sheer size of the equipment is just mind-boggling.
Fender Dunlop Usflex belts are engineered to withstand the harshest applications, delivering benefits that solve customer problems via superior rip, tear, and impact resistance. Usflex are extremely strong and robust belts that are difficult to destroy, which is important for heavy-duty bulk material handling environments. Made in their very own North American manufacturing facilities, this revolutionary concept in straight warp conveyor belting is up to 3 times more impact resistant versus competitor belting. Usflex users use fewer belts per year, make fewer belt repairs and replacements, reduce or eliminate belt downtime, and improve employee safety. You can visit FenderDunlopAmericas.com to learn more about their premium Usflex conveyor belting. Looking to solve a problem? Apex Automation has a solution. Their proven track record has helped organizations streamline production and improve team morale by removing mundane tasks and lower operation costs and burdens. Robotics, advanced process control, and machine learning are examples of what Apex Automation can provide. Have an idea? Looking for a trusted consultant who can deliver? Contact Apex Automation today and start your team's automation journey. Visit apexautomation.ca to learn more.
We're going to talk a little bit about sustainable mining, and so I was curious, and so you've sort of worked around the world then in mining. Has it, when you start to get into 24, 25 years of experience, has it evolved quite a bit, or I mean, and I don't mean this as a knock on the mining industry, but you can, if you read a report, you'll hear about sustainable goals and things like that. But just you from looking on the ground, the core of the equipment, how much has it changed?
I think it has changed quite a bit. I mean, the word sustainability has been used for quite some time, even in the mining industry, I would say at least 10 years. And for a long time, it felt to me it was more an image thing. Everybody has
Mm-hmm.
to be sustainable, but we didn't really see it 10 years ago in specifications and in decisions. But now customers are really looking at not only operational cost savings opportunities, but also, what does the equipment to cut down carbon emissions? What can we do to reduce dust emissions? So it plays also into the social license to operate that's becoming more important.
Mm-hmm.
And the solutions that Boimer can provide really help clients become more sustainable, help become more environmentally friendly, while at the same time reduce operational cost. And I think all these aspects 10, 15 years ago were not that important to our customers.
So tying that in, then, where, from Boimer's perspective, where is their responsibility on the sustainable side? What are customers looking for now that they maybe weren't looking for 10 years ago?
So one of our specialty that I would really like to talk about is our long distance conveying technology. And it's nothing new really. I mean, that goes back to the roots of our company. We were founded in the 30s. But we've been building long distance complex conveyors, since the 60s. Um, but we see now customers looking at um, transport applications, conveyor applications with ever longer conveying distances.
Mm,
And in particular here in North America, Americans always, love the trucks. They love the flexibility that a truck fleet provides. If a single truck, fails or needs to be repaired, then it's just one truck out of many that's
mm-hmm.
missing in the operation. And yeah, we felt for the longest time that there was some hesitance of North American customers in particular to adapt the conveying technology, because if you have a conveyor, um, there's some constraints, and you need to make sure that the systems are designed properly. Because if a conveying line is down, then the whole mine might be down,
Mm-hmm.
because there might not be an alternative mode of transportation.
I want to.
Uh,
Sorry, I want to just quickly jump in on this because this is interesting. Because I've asked this question, and sometimes it's hard, sort of hard to frame it, but you sort of set it up for me. Is you kind of touched on a little bit of a cultural outlook as opposed to just a dollar and cents sort of approach to what they're designing. So, are you saying that in the U.S., let's say, or and I don't know if Canada is similar, that there has sort of historically been a preference as opposed to a same type of operation in let's say South Africa would lean towards more the overland system?
Yes, I would certainly say so. I mean, I'm sure there's some certain drivers that are region specific, and it might be the cost of fuel that has
Right.
traditionally been lower here in the US in particular
Yeah.
compared to some other operations in Europe. But yes, to and it's probably also related to the age of a mine because
Mm,
ideally, you design an overland conveyor early on into the mine design and plan for it. And if you have an existing mine, an old mine that's in operation for 50, 60 years, it's sometimes difficult to say, okay, now let's retire the
right.
truck fleet and let's put a conveyor because the mine was not set up properly. And that's why it's so important that when clients dream the future of their mine, um, think about expansion plans to look early at conveying options and see what that would look like before it's too late. Because very often we get involved, we feel way too late, and we look at a certain conveyor application and
Right.
we wonder ourselves like, why was it done like this? Why does a conveyor start here and why haven't it started over there? And we feel it would have been beneficial to get involved earlier and develop the best route of a particular conveyor early on
Well,
with the
it's
customer.
it's going to go that no one plans to fail; they fail to plan. And I'm wondering on the sustainable side, that seems like such a key piece now. Are companies getting better at being proactive, or is it just? I mean, the people that are designing these mines are just, it's incredible what they're designing these days. But I mean, through history, it's incredible. But they still have so much that they have to put together. Has there been a move, especially specific to the North American market, to be more proactive in planning things out? Because, I mean, efficiency is sort of at the root of the sustainability.
Yes, I mean very much so. I mean, I would say many more projects, all new mines, all new greenfield operations are certainly looking into conveying options pretty much from day one now. What is a little bit new for us that we are getting involved now earlier as well, something that we wanted to do, and I think it is partially also something to do with the lack of expertise. There is a lack of engineers, in the
Mm,
mining industry, like in many other industries. So that I think engineering firms and clients and customers are more inclined to engage OEMs such as Boimer earlier on in
right.
defining what the mine looks like.
So, could you paint a little bit of a picture? Let's say if it's not doesn't happen that way. So, will it go so far as just as an engineer will design? Let's say they do want an overland conveyor. They know that that's going to be part of their system. Will they go as far as to basically design a rough draft, and then you'll come in and have to like almost redesign it and say, well, no, it actually shouldn't go that direction. It should start here and go over here. Like, does that sort of thing actually happen?
It does happen, and unfortunately, we look at it, and we are engineers, so we are passionate what we are doing, so we're always trying to do something better. So if we see a concept that's been presented to us, let's say it's a 10-kilometer long overland conveyor, and it's designed in a way that it has two transfer towers in the middle because the client thinks you cannot go around that curve, so you need to have an
Mm,
angle. So you put a transfer tower, and then we look at it and say like, hey. There's no reason why this couldn't be a single conveyor, so let's put a curve in there. And we go back to the customer and present it, and they look at us and say, Nobody told us that before, but unfortunately, we have it already permitted this way, and we don't own the
Oh.
land that you would need to cut those corners. So, would we have been involved 2 years earlier,
Mm.
before the permitting was put into place? There could have been a potential to eliminate two transfer towers. So sometimes it's very difficult to introduce those changes, and that's why we really push our customers to get us involved early.
So will you come in, does Boimer only come in if the contract, I'm sure there's bidding and all that sort of stuff. Do you ever just come in as initial, like 2 years earlier during the permitting? Are you essentially just delivering a consulting service then? Or how does that work for that sort of long term? Because the law can change in 2 years, I think, as we've learned in the world.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, sometimes we just get asked, hey, can you guys have a quick look? What would you guys do?
Mm.
And we spend a day or two and give our feedback, and that type of support is I wouldn't really call it consulting. For sure, it's not paid consulting.
Right.
But over the
That is
last
the difference.
yeah, but for the last couple years now, again, we are seeing more and more formal inquiries. Hey, we would like you to be part of this pre-feasibility study or feasibility study,
Right.
and those are then actually paid consulting services that we can provide. And it depends a little bit on the extent, because we have the capabilities of developing comprehensive 3D earthwork models. We can provide models of what our conveyors look like, where the conveyor is mounted on the ground versus elevated sections. We can do trade-off studies, and some of these studies they can go on for 6 months or more. Um, and what's really nice is that we taking now a holistic approach to this transportation challenge, where in the past we would get involved very late, and somebody says, "Hey, how much does a conveyor cost like that?" To the point where we say, "No, hey, you just tell us what you want to do. You want to transport from A
Mm.
to B. Tell us where this is." Often we get a topography of that site. If not, we can use drone technology to help map and get an elevation profile. And then we really have a clean sheet of paper and can try to determine what the best route is. We can try to determine if it's best to cut certain areas to cut down on the elevations, or if it's better to have elevated bridge sections. And at the end of the day, we can provide to our customers then an optimized route together with capital cost, CAPEX, and also operational cost, which is also something that we feel more and more customers are looking at operational cost. In the past, very often, we would get an inquiry. Often we are an engineering firm, and they would just look at capital cost, which we can obviously provide, and we can provide low-cost solutions. But sometimes they come at the expense of high operational costs.
Mm.
By having this holistic approach, we can really help look at both aspects.
It must sometimes be a little bit hard when a customer says, "Nope, this is we got point A to B. This is the permit we got. This is how we have to do it." Just as an engineer, it must just be like a little bit like, "Okay, we'll do it."
Yeah, it's frustrating, but it is what it is. At the end of the day,
Right. Yeah.
if it's still a nice conveying system that fits to what we do, and we can still, optimize within the constraints, that's fine. But yes, it is frustrating, and we often ask ourselves, like, how could we have been involved earlier, a couple of years, and we could have helped to optimize it.
Do you think now the connectivity in the world, little shows like ours, just the even companies own LinkedIn accounts where they're sharing their different setups that they're doing as they're developing the mines, and there's just so much more information out there now, in a way that just wasn't 20 years ago, and it's just easier to access as well. I mean, someone like myself can go Google, different types of overland conveyors, and I can get all different types of configurations. Do you think that encourages or accelerates the capabilities of these companies to be able to get Boimer involved earlier, and of course be able to you get that message out to say there's a lot of advantages, especially on the sustainability side, to connect with us early?
Yes, I mean, I absolutely agree to that. It makes it easier for us to spread the message and to share about, the references that we have built and what has been done. And I think for many customers, that's an eye opener. So
Mm.
yes, YouTube's and LinkedIn's, that's important to us to get the word out and connect with potential customers who, look at our videos that we post, and then we get an inquiry and said, hey, we have an application coming up, would you guys be willing and able to help us?
Yeah, I mean we've had companies on that are just belt manufacturers. I won't drop names because everybody's collaborating with everybody, but and they're getting customers calling them directly off, going, yeah, so we didn't realize that's actually the type of belt we need. Can we get that one? It just in a way you couldn't have done that like 20 years ago. That just someone in South Africa couldn't have just seen an interview that happened in a little town in BC. Um, can you and building off that, are customers more educated in some ways now? Can they like they don't do they need as much introduction, or are they really able to sort of accelerate getting into the nuts and bolts of what they really need, or is there still a lot of education that needs to happen through those initial conversations?
I would say yes and no. I think the customers are aware of technologies that are available. I do believe sometimes customers think because they see how it works and how it looks, that they sometimes simplify it and think it's easy
Yeah.
to implement. And we see that sometimes, for example, on LinkedIn, where we see then questions, hey, can you tell me what a conveyor per meter would cost? And
That would
for
that'd be something I would ask.
yeah, and sometimes they ask, and even 4,000 tons, and you kind of have to educate them. Okay, 1,000 tons, 1,000 tons of what? It's a difference whether you transport wood chips or whether you transport iron ore concentrate. It's a different density. It makes a difference whether you are transporting it over flat distance of 10 kilometers or over a steep inclined 400-meter long section. So the pricing per meter on a system like that would greatly differ.
Right.
And so it's for us, it's an opportunity to connect, but then very quickly we really have to look into the details with the customers, because every conveying system that we are involved with is different. So there is no copy and paste, take that conveyor from 2020 and just implement it for that upcoming project. You can't do that.
It's Canada's premier event for mining, metals, and materials professionals. The Canadian Institute of Mining, Metallurgy, and Petroleum will be hosting its annual convention and expo in May in the beautiful city of Montreal. The technical program will feature expertise from a wide range of leaders across industry sectors. Are you working on a project that others in the industry need to know about? Well, let them know. CIM is now seeking presentations on a variety of topics. You can visit them at convention.cim.org to learn more. In business since 1960, DyeCorp is a leading private manufacturer and distributor of specialty chemicals, equipment, parts, and accessories, serving the energy and mining industries. DyeCorp manufactures and distributes a full line of driller's edge coring rods, core retrieval systems, and diamond tooling for diamond core drilling worldwide. They also manufacture and sell high-quality Earth Pro drilling fluids and additives for the mineral exploration and energy industries. For more, you can visit them at dye-corp.com or contact their head office at 780-440-4923. PowerZone carries a massive inventory of pumps, engines, generators, and compressors. However, they don't stop there. They combine imagination with world-class engineering. They detail the entire process to every customer. Their pump package testing facility ensures your equipment is landing on-site, ready to work. That is PowerZone. Start with inventory, develop with imagination, deliver with integrity, and it's all at powerzone.com. That is PowerZone.
Can you break down the horizontally curved conveyors? I know you already kind of mentioned them. You're talking about having to actually go around obstacles and things like that. can you sort of break down just sort of the technology, but also the different types, for like from the trough, the pipe, and those types of things?
Yeah, so the different conveying technologies available. Let me, for a minute, stay with the conventional trough conveyor. I would say up till the mid 60s, these conveyors would only be built straight. And if you had to go around a curve, around a corner, you put a transfer tower and then angle off. In the 60s, Boimer was actually the first company that built a horizontally curved conveyor. We found out how to properly calculate what that needed to look like. And for non-conveyor people, I always say, imagine you have a rubber band that you are stretching and you're trying to put this around a corner. What will happen is, the rubber band will have the tendency to move either the curve to the one side or the other. And with a conveyor belt, that movement depends on the belt tension. It depends on the amount of material loaded off the conveyor. So when you move material around a corner, not around a corner, in a curve, the belt will move. And the key is to properly determine during the early planning phase how much that belt is moving and what you have to do to keep it centered and make sure it does not wander off the idler roads. And the calculation methods on how to properly calculate that have greatly improved over the years. So we can now accurately predict what the belt will actually do. We have many references, so the information from the actual installations we have been able to take back and tweak our models. And it is tricky, but we have proven that it can be done right. Newcomers in this industry have tried it, and not everybody was successful because you need to have this experience that you put back into these models. So with trough conveyor that used to be just straight, now we are able to do curves, and the curves, I would say, are getting tighter and tighter, but there are physical limits. And for those applications where we have really tight radii that we need to realize, we recommend our pipe conveyor technology. And a pipe conveyor is a conveyor where the conveyor belt is actually shaped into a pipe, or some people call it a tube. Tube conveyor is the same thing as a pipe conveyor. The loading and the discharge end of this pipe conveyor is like a conventional conveyor, but the pipe conveyor in between is closed. It has a nice benefit, not only being able to do tight radii and follow kind of the terrain or the limited space to move inside of a plant. For example, you find these pipe conveyors often in plants, but the nice benefit is that it also keeps the material completely enclosed. So there's no spillage, no dust emissions whatsoever on a pipe conveyor.
Is that becoming more commonplace? Again, with things like just if it's going near a community and things like that, are you seeing more of that as well?
Yes, absolutely. We see pipe conveyors very popular for I would say the last 20 years at port applications.
Right. Yeah.
Because being close to the water, you don't want any spillage into the water there for sure. But then we see it also more and more used now actually for CCR handling, for fly ash handling in the power industry. You might be familiar that there are many ash ponds that need to be moved to permanent landfills and closed.
Right.
Sometimes the fly ash is being reclaimed and exported for use in the cement industry. And conveyors in these applications are becoming increasingly pipe conveyors for the same reason that I just mentioned, to be able to follow existing plant terrain, the limitations that we find in a power plant. You can't just build a
right
big conveyor. There's no space. Pipe conveyor can go around existing structures, but also keeping the material enclosed. And then we have the third type of conveying technology, what we call the U-belt, and that is actually a combination of the pipe conveyor and a trough conveyor. At a U-belt, the belt is actually open. It's not completely enclosed, but it looks like a U, or also called a deep trough kind of arrangement. And a U-belt allows to transport larger lumps because pipe conveyors have some restrictions into how large the lumps can be. U-belts are being used for alternative fuel handling applications where, domestic waste, for example, is not, the pieces are not uniformly shaped. So U-belt is a nice alternative. And the U-belt has the advantage of also allowing tighter radii, not quite as tight as pipe conveyors, but certainly tighter than conventional conveyors. So U-belts have applications in the alternative fuel industry, alternative fuel feed, for example, at a cement plant. So that's the third type of conveyor that Boimer can provide.
You mentioned I really want to get to the some of the acquisition of FAM because that just opens up a whole new portfolio for Boimer. But I just wanted to quickly go back to something you said. You were talking about reclamation is not the word you used, but sort of reusing products again. So I was wondering, are you seeing a lot in the industry now of people, relooking like different ways of waste handling in the mining operations, or even going because of new technology that allows more efficient refining processes and things like that, reusing waste and having to get stuff back into locations. Are you seeing that type of thing developing as sort of the refining and the reuse side of technology advances?
To some extent, yes. What's happening is that the ore grades are declining typically. So all the high grade mines and the high grade ore deposits have been mined off. So what's happening is that you have lower grade material, and that means in order to ultimately get the same amount of metal or out of an existing deposit, you have to move more material. Um, I'm not particularly seeing applications where waste is reprocessed. I know that it's done, for example, at some diamond mines in South Africa, but I have not seen that in particular on a larger scale for, let's say, copper or gold.
Right. Yeah.
Generally, you mentioned waste handling. It is so of interest in the past. You need to remove waste, overburden from a mine deposit in order to get to the ore. And traditionally, that had also been mostly done with trucks. And we see more and more waste handling applications where customers are looking also now at conveyors to move the waste to waste dumps. And not only conveyors, because at the end of the transport, you need to somehow have a orderly way of deposing and building up waste dumps. And you just mentioned the acquisition of FAM, and that's a great addition to our portfolios because FAM has a lot of experience in building spreaders. And those waste spreaders, had been used for many, many years in the lignite mines, most known in Eastern Germany, for example, and those types of machines are now being used also in South American mines. Here in North America, they're looking some applications as well.
Well, can we talk a little bit about what the difference at FAM, because that really, it really rounds out your whole material handling capabilities now. And again, does that become a collaboration now on a project at times? Does FAM, obviously these are standalone projects in some ways, like an overland conveyor, but they're also a bulk material handling expert. So how does that sort of all fit together now?
Yeah, it's an expansion of our portfolio. And if you take an overland conveyor would never be built by itself. There's something on either end.
Yes.
And let's take the waste handling application that I was just talking about. In order to move waste material onto an overland conveyor, you need to break the material. The lumps would be too big, so you have to have a crushing plant. FAM has crushing technologies and crushing plant technologies available. At the other end, if it's a waste application, we might have spreaders that dump the material. If you have a spreader, you need to have shiftable conveyors, possibly depending on how the waste deposits are being built. That's technologies that FAM has provided for many, many years. If you take ore, you have the crushers in a processing facilities. You have mills. If we have a port application, you will find ship loaders. And while Boimer also built ship loaders in the past, the amount of references had been limited that we built as Boimer. With FRM, if you look at the reference list, I mean, FRM had been building ship loaders for, I don't know, probably 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And the types of machines really for every applications are available. So we greatly have an expansion of the portfolio, and we are able now to provide customers entire systems and not just a single overland conveyor.
So, how does that conversation, just given your title how does that work then when now you're starting a conversation? Are you having to, are customers still coming saying, well, we need this overland conveyor, and now you're saying, oh, well, absolutely. Where are you at with this end of it? Where are you at with this end of it? And then building that package out, or is the industry, are they coming to you and asking for the whole thing now? What is there sort of a common answer to that, or is it vary greatly per customer?
Well, it's both. I mean, we certainly, when we engage with customers, promote the entire portfolio. I mean, we are now one company.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process, so the integration of FAM into the overall Boimer group is ongoing. We are trained on each other's portfolio, so we certainly can speak to some extent about the portfolio of the other party now. But that's certainly the way forward that we provide larger systems.
Peter, I sometimes I bring up companies, things like their vision and mission statements, because they just kind of they have real impact. And the reason I say that is when you look at some, you can see it's a very corporate type. They've developed it. There's probably been a whole bunch of consultants on it. But then some of them have, it's like, no, there's a value here. This is what we believe. This is a core. And so when I read Boimer's, it says, we are looking for the long-term success and not for the short-term profit. I mean, that's a very powerful statement to have an mission statement. So I kind of wanted to get your perspective. I mean, you've been with the company a couple years now. Is sort of where that comes from as a company and the sense that you get from it.
Well, I think that distinguishes us. You know, we are a family-owned business. Dr. Beumer has been our CEO and been the third generation leader of the company. And for us, it's important not to take on a job just to meet a financial target that somebody has set, like we often see in publicly traded companies.
Yeah.
We do not, operate from quarter to quarter and from year to year. So we would never buy a job, for example. We pick our clients carefully, see if it's a good fit. We select our projects carefully to make sure they fit to who we are. And we really want to build up a long-term relationship. And that includes being there for a customer after the system is installed and running. We now have a project in Canada where we are working with the customer to upgrade a conveying system and increase the capacities by up to, I think, 25 or 30%. And other companies have the mindset, we get a project, we complete it, we maximize our profits, and that's it. And that's not the way we're taking it. Dr. Boimer is stepping down. He's or stepped down as the CEO. Mr. Hausladen has taken over recently as our CEO, but Dr. Boimer, as the family representative, a family member, is remaining in an advisory role with the company to make sure that these values that the family has defined for us to operate under are adhered to and lived by every day.
I think, and when you say, you mentioned that he's even as an advisory role with a new CEO and things like that. And I saw that on even the trade show floor is just that sort of that engagement from your team. I'll throw this to the last question, and this is just your sort of personal development over the years. I mean, that's a two-part question. What do you think in your professional career that comes very natural to you, that you sort of wake up day to day and it's what you do, it's what you enjoy, and it's just you. And what strength is that you kind of bring day to day? And then the other thing is I'm sure you've challenged yourself over the years. What is something that you've sort of maybe a tool, a skill set that you didn't have 20 years ago that you have developed over the years?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I'm passionate about the work we do, about the projects we are involved with. I mean, I said it earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
What drove me into the industry after college is still something that makes me proud, that we as a company are able to build these amazing systems and they work at the end. So in all these 25 years, I'm not aware of a system that I was involved as an engineer, as a project manager, or from a sales function, that we sold something, built something. At the end of the day, we had to say, sorry, it doesn't work.
Wow.
That's it. We always made it work. And that is something as an engineer that fills me with pride. And now being more sales focused, I'm excited to share a vision. I'm excited to help a client dream up a solution, and then I'm really excited to show videos of actual systems that are in operation, that are running. So that's something that drives me. What I've learned over the years, that I didn't always have, I really enjoy bringing people together, forming teams, and the sales functions, that is bringing a client together, finding out who the right people are on the owner's side that we need to talk to, and connecting them with our engineering teams, and trying to help all us run into the same direction, with ultimately the goal of building a system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you know that you have to manage the various stakeholders, internally and external, and it is sometimes a challenge to align everyone. But that is it's a challenge that is also fun.
What if you were to talk to an engineer that's maybe worked in the industry for 15 years and now they're moving into that more sales role? What would that sort of those ability to sort of kind of bring people together? Would that be the skill that you would tell them to focus on, or what would be the skill?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, being a good communicator, but which includes listening,
Yeah.
being a good listener, and trying to understand what's really important. But then also opening up customers' eyes and say, like, hey, have you considered about this? You may not be aware of that.
Right.
So be a little bit of an educator at the same time.
Yeah, and finding that balance, because sometimes you're having to correct people without them feeling like they're corrected. The other thing I was wondering, when you're a problem, just a personality thing, when you're problem solving, and you're working on these major type projects, how do you sort of manage that in your mind? Are you the person that, while you're driving, you're kind of thinking and picturing in your mind, or are you the person that shuts it off and then you kind of zero in on it when it's time to work on the problem? How do you what's sort of the best solution for you in sort of a challenging technical problem solving situation?
Well, what certainly happens, that you have some sleepless moments, and during the night, and then you get to the office, and I like to discuss those with the team. And we have a great team located here in the US, but also many folks at our Center of Competence in Germany, and we have many conversations. And then I would typically bring those up and to see if we can solve these issues on the spot, or whether we have to kind of organize a little project around it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very much a team player, so I'm not somebody that is trying to resolve world's problem just by myself.
So you're not sort of that shut the door and kind of you more you want to talk it out, sort of you're hearing, feeding off of what other people are saying, and then that sort of builds the solution out of it.
Correct.
Yeah, it's I mean there's I mean looking at Boimer and FAM, I mean there's so much to cover. I mean we could take 2 projects and spend an hour just unpacking. And I hope we're getting you back on the show at some point, Peter, because that's what I would like to do next time is maybe take a couple projects from start to finish and really unpack them. Because I think the audience, with your expertise, I think they would just love that. There'd just be so much to learn in doing that. But anyway, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was great to have you on, and I really do hope we do it again.
Thank you, Jared. It was very nice talking to you.
Good to talk to you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We're going to have lots of links to Boimer and to FAM. Yeah, I mean, they're sort of the next level of material handling. So please check that out. Please let us know. We will have, we're going to events all over the world now. Again, thank you to Savanaugh Equipment for sponsoring those travels. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.